for being here. Thank you for taking the time for this really busy and eventful World Vegan Festival. So thank you for being here. I'm going to talk about. Can you guys hear me in the back? That's fine. Okay. I'm going to be talking about 3 things before we get to cooking. First, Filipino food, vegan Filipino food, and why should you make vegan Filipino food at home? Okay, so first, Filipino food. Well, before we begin, I'd like to say a very, very special thank you to the organizers and to the volunteers of World Vegan Festival. Welcome. I remember you. Welcome back. And to a very special friend, Marita. She's sitting right there. She lobbied for me and for Stick Vegan to be here because this is, and this was confirmed by the organizers, the first vegan Filipino cooking demo in the history of World Vegan Festival. The first. So I'm very excited and honored because I've been going to this festival for years with my good friend Jen. Where is she? Yes, and we're just checking out different vendors and speakers. You know, I was here before, and thank you so much to Greg for putting this event together. Thank you. Yeah, I was just telling them that, you know, I've been just going here, just checking out as a spectator. And little did I know, fast forward later, that I'll be here in front of you talking and speaking. So it's a very humbling experience. I'm very grateful and honored. So thank you, Greg. No problem. Welcome. Okay, so get back to Filipino food. Well, Filipino food is if you don't know yet, very meat heavy. In fact, growing up in the Philippines, there are pretty much 2 things that comprise the Filipino meal. That's rice and meat. If you don't have those 2, then it's not a meal. It's not a Filipino meal. And sometimes, very rarely, there are Filipino vegetable dishes, but usually sprinkled with fried pork or shrimp paste. So it's unfortunately very, very not so vegan-friendly cuisine. Now, second, vegan Filipino food. So I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about a Stick Vegan, a little bit about me. I was born and raised in the Philippines until I was 15 years old. And I would help my mom cook Filipino food for the entire family. She was a full-time homemaker for more than 15 years, cooking Filipino food for the family. And she would make me and my sisters help her in the kitchen. Not our choice. I wasn't a fan of cooking back then. I just didn't find it fun. It was a chore. It wasn't creative for me. I just didn't like it. Fast forward later, we moved here in the U.S. And then I took a nutrition class. Now back then, I had no intention of going even vegetarian, even pescatarian. I did not know anybody. I wasn't educated about like the values of going animal product free. I had no idea. I'd never seen a video, nothing. And that class was far from being vegan either. It was just like a tiny chapter on the different levels of going vegetarian. But that class changed my life because that class made me aware of what's in my food, of what I put inside my body, and I just became hyper aware of what I was, eating. And from there, it made me feel bad about eating an animal flesh. It was very natural for me. I didn't know what to think of it back then. And every journey is different, but that was mine. And so when I became vegan, or back then vegetarian, I was thinking, well, how am I going to have Filipino food now? How am I going to have to give that up? Am I going to have to give up my culture? Am I going to have to give up who I am, part of who I am? So there was a dilemma that I wasn't sure, do I have to give that up so I can be animal product free? Welcome, feel free to grab a chair. And the answer came from a very unlikely source, my parents. Because my parents, I really thought that they would be the first one to protest my lifestyle and probably disown me for not being able to eat my mom's cooking anymore. But it was my dad. I still remember it. He said, well, you keep taking out the meat from the meal. Why don't you just go vegetarian? And then it was actually my mom who helped me in the kitchen make sure that what I serve to my family will taste just like how she would make at home. Will taste just like how I remembered it as a kid. So that Filipino food can be vegan, healthy, and delicious without losing its soul. And without losing its soul means that without compromising its essence, without compromising how it's supposed to taste like, supposed to make you feel. Because it's very hearty, it's very comforting. Which brought me to this point that what I'm going to show you today is going to be very hearty. It's going to be very indulgent, and it's going to be more on a comfort food side. So just a heads up. I'm going to give you options as well for substitutions if you would like to, an even healthier route. So third point, why should you make Filipino food at home? Especially if you've never had, who here had tried or who here made Filipino food at home before? Oh, you've made them, okay. Who here have tried vegan Filipino food at home? Okay, there are some. Yay. So, why should you try it, especially if you never grew up eating it? So, not like me who miss it all the time. Well, because I heard from friends like Eve that there's so much to vegan food to explore. That it's not just for what we see with from cookbooks. It's nice that we have a lot of cookbooks out there, but I think it's also time to learn about other cuisines like Filipino food. And I'm going to show you that they're simple to make. That's why I'm not going to make just one. I'm going to make 3 dishes, vegan Filipino dishes, in the limited time that we have, reminded by my good friend here, Aunt, that we will be able to do it. Yep. And I'm excited to show you. So without further ado, let's get started. Oh, thank you. You haven't started yet. Thank you. Thank you. So the first dish is called ginataang sitaw at kalabasa. Or ginataang kalabasa at sitaw. Can you guys say that? Say that one more time. Okay. Ginataang kalabasa at sitaw. Yeah, there you go. Perfectly pronounced. And it simply means, any guess? Nope. Soup? Nope. In English, what does it mean in English? No. That's a completely different term. This is, in English, it's called kabocha squash, which means kalabasa, and long beans, sitaw, in coconut milk. Okay. So that's gata. And the first dish is something I'd like to show you that it's a almost traditionally vegan Filipino dish. It's one of those rare dishes that highlights vegetables. Here's a sad trivia. Philippines is actually one of the has the most vegetation. One of the countries has the most vegetation in Asia, but also consumes the least amount of vegetables in Asia. How ironic! But with this dish, though, you can make this at a potluck. You can introduce this or share this with Filipino friends and relatives, and they are not going to be like, whoa, what's that? It's going to be very familiar with them because, right? Have you had it? Yeah, right? Because this is a traditional recipe that highlights the squash and long beans. Even without shrimp paste, they won't freak out if they see that it's vegan. So I'm going to start off with that. So I have here a pot, and then we're going to saute with garlic, onions. I have here already softened kabocha squash, but you don't have to pre-steam it. It's just for the interest of time today. I already have them soft, but you can simmer it in coconut milk and later soften it that way. Simmer it. So kabocha squash, you can buy them at Asian grocery stores, farmers market. There are some stores too, like maybe Rainbow Grocery may have it sometimes. Asian markets for sure. Right. So a little trivia, in the Philippines, there's only one kind. So you don't have to say kabocha. You can just say squash, and this is the squash, right? It's a good source of protein, and also you may use other kinds of squash as well. It's just a traditional one, but you're more than welcome to substitute. And the skins are actually edible. So if you want more fiber, you can use the skin of the kabocha squash. I'm just sharing with you the traditional way, but you're more than welcome to have the skins on, especially because they can be tricky cutting them, right? They can be very hard. Okay, so I'm just waiting for this to heat up. Any questions so far?
Do you have the recipe for us?
Oh yes, so I have all the discoveries of vegan Filipino food recipes are on the blog. I have it listed here. It's called astigvegan.com. That's the website. I also have a YouTube cooking show called it's youtube.com/RCE Studios. RCE are the initials of my name, RCE Studios. And you can check the recipe there. I also have it written down here so you can come up and then you can write it down.
RCG Studios, YouTube at RCG Studio.
Yeah, R for Robert, R for Richgail, C as in cat, E as in Edward. Is it sitting here, heating up here? So we're going to start with garlic, onions, a little bit of coconut oil, and then we put the coconut milk and kabocha squash. Simmer, put long beans, and season, and you're done. So it's that simple. But my traditional my personal touch will be to mash the squash to the coconut milk so that it blends in with the sauce. Okay. Is it heating up? Yeah. And you can grab most of the ingredients at Asian grocery stores.
Did you cook that in coconut milk already, or did you cook it a different way?
So she asked, did I cook the squash in coconut milk when I was steaming it, or without the coconut milk? I just used water. But when you're doing this at home, you don't have to pre-steam. You can just simmer it raw, put it raw, and then simmer it with coconut milk. Any other questions?
Is your coconut milk just coconut milk?
Oh, so is the coconut milk just coconut milk or is it sweetened coconut milk? It's regular coconut milk. And the brand that I like is, I'm not sure if I'm gonna pronounce it, Aroidi, because it has only 2 ingredients, coconut extract and water. And you can find I found this at Manila Oriental.
Archie, do you ever use light coconut milk?
Yes. Yes. You can use light coconut milk, especially if you're watching the fat intake. The brand I like is Thai Kitchen. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon of coconut oil here, extra virgin coconut oil. And then, like I said, we're gonna saute with garlic and onions. That's pretty much the beginning of most Filipino cooking. In the Philippines, we call that gisa, G-I-S-A. Yeah.
I heard the reason why Filipino women are so beautiful is because of the coconut oil.
Oh. Well, I use it every day. I'm just kidding.
Because you're not using like a lot of the canola oils and things like that.
Yeah. In the Philippines, coconut trees are everywhere, and you use coconut in every stage, not just with food, but for hair, for skin. We even use it as like a polisher, the husk, to polish. Okay, so this has melted, so we're gonna put about I would say 5 cloves of garlic, because I like it really garlicky.
Do you use refined or unrefined?
Unrefined for this one, for the first one. Okay, I'm using an electric stove here, so it's not as strong. I know, gas stove is better. Yes, gisa. And then for the sitaw part, which is long beans, this is what it looks like. You guys can see it, right? And you can also find this at Asian grocery stores. So, what if you cannot find long beans? Well, you're more than welcome to use other ingredients. You can use substitutions. What will be a good substitution for this? You can use regular green beans. You can even add more ingredients here. You can add mushroom here. Tofu will be great. What else? Eggplants, right? Yum. What else? Ampalaya. Oh, did you say that? Okay, so ampalaya, bitter melon. But it's like a superfood. Ampalaya is anti-inflammatory. It's very good for you. If you want to remove the bitter part of ampalaya, you just you wash it with salt before preparing, and that will remove the bitterness of ampalaya. And it's good for for people with diabetes.
So, when you say wash it with salt, you mean you salt it like you would an eggplant?
Right, but you can just use, yes, correct.
Okay, yeah, just to kind of make it sweat a little.
Exactly, to remove the bitterness, right. And that is good. Ampalaya is actually good with tofu scramble. Mm-hmm. You can find them at Asian grocery stores. So we're just waiting for this, okay? And we'll put 1 yellow onion. So I'll put half of it because I used 2. And then you want to add a little bit of salt to sweat the aromatics. Actually, when you salt throughout cooking, and some of you probably already know this, you actually not just make the food salty, but you actually release the natural juices of the ingredients as you salt throughout. And that also makes you use less salt in the end because you don't have to overcompensate with having to put a lot of salt. But you can also just skip using salt if you'd like. It's up to you. But you can salt a little bit throughout if you'd like to speed up the process. Okay, any questions so far? Oh, cool. Okay. And then I have here, this is about 2 pounds of kabocha squash, but doesn't have to be precise. You can use half of kabocha, medium-sized kabocha squash. And I have here, I'm going to put about half because I want to mash the other half and keep the other half intact. So I'm going to put that there. So so I am using the back of the ladle to mash the squash. Now you can use an immersion blender as well if you'd like. You can use Vitamix if you'd like to mash, but that's another cleanup. So I like to use the back of a ladle. It's easier cleanup. Okay. And then, so the trick to cutting kabocha is to use like a seesaw motion when you're using the knife, and then always flat side down, so it's easier to cut. You can cut them in wedges, and then if you'd like to peel the skin like after cutting them in wedges, and then cut them even like smaller pieces. Okay. Then I'm going to add coconut milk now. Easy enough, right? You can definitely do this at home, whether you're a professional chef or a newbie cook.
How long does the food prep take you?
It depends on how you're used to cutting the kabocha squash, and also how sharp your knife is. Actually, a sharper knife is safer than a dull knife because you can just use have light hands and it will, but not that much because you're only using 2 ingredients for the main ingredients: kabocha squash and long beans. So approximately 15 to 20 minutes. And with onions, 1 yellow onion. The trick to not crying from onions. Any tips?
Yeah, if you do it when it's cold, and also when you slice the onion, you slice through the little edge part of the onion, and you keep that intact while you're cutting because that has most of the sulfonides that make you cry.
Thank you. It also keeps it in place.
It keeps it in place too.
Yeah.
Right.
And
a sharp knife too. If your knife is dull, it doesn't cut the onion as well.
right. And it may slip. You don't want that. And also, so how can you keep it cold? How?
In the refrigerator. Yeah, and it keeps them from sprouting and going back to keeping your onions.
Thank you.
That's just what I do.
Yeah, thank you. You can also have, I heard, light a candle around next to you, and that will not irritate. That will remove the acid that irritates your tear ducts. So, okay, so that's now that it's mashed. I'm gonna add the other half here, so something to bite a little bit. Looking good so far, right? And then we add the long beans.
Did you pre-cook those?
No. Yeah. No need to steam ahead of time. Long beans, what's nice about long beans is that it stays firm even after,
I love it.
right?
At the Asian market, they're so inexpensive. Yeah.
Expensive or not
Inexpensive.
inexpensive?
Inexpensive.
And also they're usually sold by bundle.
And they're cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cute.
You're right, and they're easy. Just make sure that you discard the ends. Just a little bit, like the ends. And you cut them into 1.5 inch slices, so they're easier to eat. But what I've shown you so far doesn't have to be precise measurements. If you want it extra garlicky, add 5 more cloves of garlic. If you don't want oil, you don't have to use oil when sauteing. You can use water or vegetable broth. If you want to use light coconut milk, you can use light coconut milk. If you don't have long beans, you can use eggplants or mushroom or regular green beans. So I hope you have fun with this at home. It's very easy, and it's fall season now, and it's a very fall season dish. Very comforting. I highly suggest to eat this, well, traditionally. It's great with garlic fried rice. It's just like, especially if it's cold outside. But if you definitely are, want to cut back on the rice, especially if it's fried rice, you can also use quinoa. And I enjoyed this with quinoa. So feel free to use those. Now for seasoning, I'm going to add just a little bit more salt.
So I have a question.
Uh-huh.
When you have all the ingredients in there, how long do you cook it for?
So how long do I cook this for when I'm simmering it?
When you have everything together.
So if you put in raw squash, you simmer it until it's soft enough to mash. So it depends, but it will take...
If you cook the squash first.
If you cook the squash first, really easy, like real time. So right now, so about 10, 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And you season with a little bit of salt. And you put, well, this is my personal recommendation. I like to put a little bit of Old Bay seasoning. So just a pinch of that. Here. Old Bay seasoning. What is it made of? So it's a type of seasoning, usually used for seafood, for seasoning crab, for example. But it's completely vegan spice. So sometimes in the Philippines we cook this with shrimp. So that takes care of that. And it has about celery, paprika. So it's called Old Bay, 2 words, Old Bay. And you can find Old Bay seasoning at most supermarkets, right? And Whole Foods. I'm not sure about Asian supermarkets, but yeah. Any other questions? Yes. So can we substitute coconut milk for vegetable broth? Because this dish is coconut milk stew, we would have to stick with coconut milk. But, I mean, don't let me stop you from experimenting and coming up with your own dish if you'd like. But if you like a traditional touch, it has, because it's coconut milk soup, it has to be coconut milk. Mm-hmm. Oh, speaking of which, because this is going to be too rich now, we are adding a little bit of Thai chili pepper. So we add just a little bit because we are sampling this later. So I don't want people, if you don't want spicy food. So I'm just adding this is a very mild Thai chili pepper, so I'm adding just a little bit here. Okay. And for umami flavor, I'm adding a little bit of mushroom powder. But this is optional. You don't have to. Mushroom powder. It's available at Asian grocery stores. But this is optional because Filipino food is not just, it's very savory, very umami. We love umami flavor. So I'm adding a little bit of mushroom powder there. But if you want more whole based, you can pulverize shiitake mushrooms. Or if you don't want the fuzz, that's fine. You don't have to use it either. But that's my personal touch that I like to recommend. Okay, moving on to the second dish. So this one is getting hot. So we are, ta-da! So it's sisig. So from the traditionally vegan or almost traditionally vegan to, wow, can't believe you went there. So it's a very anti-vegan dish that we are gonna veganize to prove that it is possible. So it's a pork dish in the Philippines. So I'm adding here, I'm using regular oil, but if you would like to be more indulgent and really like go to town with this and make sure that it's the most authentic tasting sisig, you're more than welcome to use refined coconut oil. But I know a lot of us are very health conscious in this event, so I'm using just regular oil. You may use grapeseed oil. But refined coconut oil removes the coconut flavor from the oil. So you're just left with the fattiness of the oil, or fatty flavor. And then I'm gonna add garlic there. Much better heat. Okay, and then onions, the gisa, and a little bit of salt. Okay, so while we're sauteing that, we add a little bit of ginger as well. So ginger is very healthy, but if you don't like biting into ginger, my trick is to just cut them in bigger portions so you get the essence without having to bite it. But if you don't mind biting it, mince, again mince, just like how you cut the onions and the garlic. Okay, so while we're waiting for that, I use for pork, surprise, surprise, mushrooms. But different kinds of mushrooms, not just white button mushroom. So I used oyster, this one is trumpet mushroom, and beech mushroom, B-E-E-C-H. Once again, it's available at Asian grocery stores. I got mine at Manila Oriental. So, and then you can also use oyster mushroom. So that really replicates the pork side without having to use pork. Okay, so I'm gonna marinate it. And the nice part about this dish is that it cooks way faster than the traditional recipe. Because you don't have to marinate overnight. Okay, you use a different towel. So I use like about a cup and a half of soy sauce. You can use liquid aminos if you'd like, coconut aminos. 1/4 cup of, this is my key ingredient, coconut vinegar. 1/4 cup of that. Available at Asian grocery stores. In case you're wondering. And a little bit of, spray a little bit of pepper there. Be more. Where's my, I'm going to use 1.5 cup. You can just use, and this is the amount of mushroom is about 1.5 pounds. So you just mix that. And this is in a traditional recipe. So you can add about a tablespoon of organic sugar. But you're more than welcome to use your favorite sweetener. This one. Okay. Can you guys see it? Okay. There you go. You just mix it around. So sisig in the Philippines is actually a bar food. Something that you eat with beer. Or not necessarily, you don't have to be in a bar. You eat it, it's called pulutan, right? You eat it with alcohol. But after a while, it became so popular, it became a main entree, and people start making it at home. And I'm using cast iron pan because sometimes they use a grill. So just to mimic that, I'm using cast iron instead. And plus, to get some iron in there. So I'm gonna put in. So I'm not dumping the soy sauce, the whole amount of soy sauce here. There. And we're gonna add a little bit of chili pepper as well. There. So it's sisig, S-I-S-I-G. Oops, there. So the traditional cut, minced. You want to mince them. And also, the mushrooms are available at Asian grocery stores, but you can also get them at Whole Foods. You can get them at other supermarkets. It's a little expensive at supermarkets.
So in the Philippines, they would just eat the pork and drink beer. They didn't eat it like on a sandwich or anything.
Right.
It's just like a cup of pork.
Well, we almost eat everything with rice.
Oh, okay.
So you can, over time, it evolved into a main entree, and then Filipino families start eating sisig with rice. But here, what I do, it evolved, you can do sisig burritos. I did a collaboration with Papalote with that one. I also, last night, actually enjoyed sisig nachos. Would add nachos and tomatoes, and add cilantro. That was nice. And white onions. Okay. All right, add them there. And we add the tofu. I fried the tofu already. You don't have to put tofu if you don't want to, but I'm just adding it in there. This is my way, but you're more than welcome to skip it if you'd like. Okay, we're gonna add, we're just going to puncture this real quick. Chili pepper. And for the last touch, we're gonna put a kind of citrus that is called calamansi. Yes, but you may use your favorite citrus if you like, lemon, lime. But this is a Filipino citrus, not to be confused with kumquats, or I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, because this one is sour. You cannot eat this straight, or I guess if you are daring enough, you can eat it straight. So I'm just gonna add half of it for now.
What did you call it again?
Calamansi.
Calamansi. So if you can't have that, could you use a lemon or something?
Right, yeah. Lemon, lime. Because some Filipino grocery stores sell calamansi, but it may be hard to come by. I actually got mine from my sister's neighbor backyard. So what does calamansi taste like? It looks like this. And it's a cross between lemon, lime, and mandarin. If you're more than welcome to grab this, bring this at home if you'd like after the demo. Okay, so most important part when you're cooking is you always want to taste, because there are so many factors affecting your kitchen that can lead to different results. So I'm going to do just that. I'm going to taste. Okay?
It's just chili pepper and the calamansi.
Right.
Right, okay.
And then, with there's also some seasoning here.
Seasoning in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm gonna taste.
So Archie, was the tofu, you had fried it before you put it in with the mushrooms, right? Okay.
So I use fried tofu, but you're more than welcome to use regular tofu without frying it if you'd like. Okay. So I'm gonna taste. I'm just kidding. Okay. No need to tweak. But yes, that's the reason why I tasted it is because you know at home you have different brands. You have different brands of seasoning. You have different brands of products. So you always want to adjust to taste in the end. Okay. Guess what? We still have time for the third one.
All right.
Okay.
You're ready.
ready? This is for dessert. We're making, oh, before I forget, bibingka. Can you guys say it? Bibingka. Bibingka. Yes, and that is Filipino rice cakes. Guess what? It's traditionally gluten-free. So we're going to use rice flour. So we use 1 cup of rice flour. Well, this is the traditional route, so I'm using 1 cup of organic sugar, but you're more than welcome to use your favorite sweetener. And 3 tablespoons of flax meal. This is our egg replacer.
3 tablespoons of what?
Flax meal. Yeah. And you can get that at supermarkets? No. Well, actually, there's some flax meal over there too. Flax seeds, not meal, flax seeds. And then 2.5 teaspoons baking powder and 1/8 teaspoon of salt. So I'm just going to eyeball that. And then 1 can, this is about 14 ounces of coconut milk. You mix that, and we're going to do some magic here. You mix that with a spatula. I'm not using spatula, but you get the idea. You use spatula or whisk. It's better to use whisk. And then you mix it until everything is incorporated. And then I have this is the best way to bake them, mini muffin pans for best texture. So this is already oiled. So as some of you already know, you just want to do 3/4 of the way. Can you guys see it? And you fill out the whole pan. And magic, it's done. Yay! All right, so that's, see, very simple, very easy, something you can do at home. 3 vegan Filipino dishes. Ginataang sitaw at kalabasa, sisig, and bibingka.
How long do you cook the bibingka?
Oh, thank you. How do you bake them? Not magic. It's 350 degrees for 20 minutes. And you want to wait, cool down for 5 minutes before removing them for easy removal from the mini muffin pan. All right? So any other questions before we end it?
For the sweetener, would you recommend using a dried form if you don't need like coconut sugar instead of like a powder?
Yes, I would suggest dried, like stevia, for example. Yes. Yes, the sisig is and the bibingka. This one is a written format on Stick Vegan. I have the web address written here, so feel free to take a picture or write it down. Okay, so last question.
When you mentioned regular oil for the second dish, what do you consider regular oil?
Oh, I'm sorry. I use canola oil. Sometimes I use grapeseed oil. That's what I meant by regular oil. But what is not regular oil? If you want to go the more fattier comfort food route, refined coconut oil. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. I hope we have to wrap it up because we have to do some. We have samples for you. Forget to eat this, so feel free. Yeah, feel free to take some.
Archie, thank you so much.